Hello, my name is Barbora Majdisova, and I'm a project director at RFSL Malmö Newcomers, where we provide support for LGBTQ+ asylum seekers and refugees in Sweden. Also in 2021, I was a member of delegation of Green European Foundation at COP26 in Glasgow, and I'm one of the editors of the Feminist Climate Ambassador's Manifesto. In one of our demands, we called for governmental implementations of feminist, queer, and intersectional approaches that highlight mutual interdependence between human and non-human nature. We suggest that an effective counter-reaction to the current trend of destroying planet and human lives for financial profits might be the queer ecofeminist ideas of human vulnerability and interdependence to other forms of life and non-living nature. Queer ecofeminists have ambition to effectively contest oversimplified patriarchal ideas of a dominant straight man and subordinate nature. Now, what do we mean by the notions of vulnerability and interdependence, and what do these two concepts have to do with queer ecofeminism? Ecofeminist author Karen Warren drew a conceptual framework which she called the logic of domination. This way of thinking encourages domination before connections and true equality. It is based on societal aversion to dependence, disability, perceived weakness, and in contrast, it is striving for domination over nature, but also over those who are considered as more vulnerable human beings. This leads to unnecessarily excessive consumption of natural resources, as patriarchal system of dominance understands nature as a sort of submitted system. But not only that, it essentially leads to mistreatment of members of vulnerable groups with less resources. It is when violence is desirable and fully expected in order to gain domination. As a reaction to that, we can perhaps consider queer ecofeminism as an activism for a wider concept of care and interdependency, as opposed to the societal fear of mutual dependency and vulnerability. And there is a need for that. Just think about the current state of work in care economies, such as elderly care, childcare, or healthcare. And these jobs are one of the most necessary ones, to probably one of the greenest ones out there, yet often severely underpaid and undervalued. So then, for the notion of interdependency, LGBTQ+ communities have brought something unique to the environmental fight. It is so because the idea of interdependency strongly resonates within the queer movement. It responds to a patriarchal society that imposes binary gender roles, expressions, and identities, and often violently attacks those who do not follow these rules. Queer people have learned to create communities rooted in interdependence and mutual support in struggle. Interdependent communities excluded from mainstream society have embraced mutual connections, open communication, collaboration, and dependence to their fellow queers. Non-binary queer activist, whose name is Alok Vaid-Menon, describes in their blog the notion of interdependence as opposed to tendencies to obtain control over another human or non-human being. They remember one specific situation, as they state, and I will quote now. After my performance in Austin, 2 trans femmes escorted me to my car and wouldn't leave me alone on the street to make sure I was safe, and followed up to make sure I got home okay. I'm so used to having to have safety planned by myself, and having other people care for me in this way moved me so much. This is what I want and need: queer interdependence. This idea that queer people have to be strong and liberated is a straight projection on us, so they can be lazy and complicit in our struggle and not have to actually do anything to make our lives less awful. End of quote. This very same notion of interdependency may be applied to our understanding of ecology and environmental awareness, as it stands exactly in the opposition of patriarchal binary strife after dominance over social minorities, such as people of color, women, queer people, or non-human nature. Let's have an example of the Gulf Stream, one of the main climate-regulating ocean currents on the planet, which conditions the livability in several climates, not only in Europe, but also in Africa and America. The Gulf Stream is slowing due to melting of fresh water from the Greenland ice sheet. The stream is now moving slower than it has been for thousands of years. And if the Gulf Stream crosses its tipping point, and even if we manage to stop global warming, it will continue to weaken. And the weakened stream then will disrupt the monsoon and rainy seasons in India, South America, and West Africa. And this will affect crop production and causing food shortages for billions of people. The fact is, we are vulnerable. And at the end of the day, humankind is dependent on the natural processes and their effects. The sooner we embrace and admit the vulnerability, the sooner we can react against disruptions in ecology caused by human actions. Thank you.